in that time right now. Taking your calls. Dr. Steve Cheney coming up next segment. Joe PA was knocking out of the park on election fraud. The voting machines all over, man. And Leon got the globals out in the open. I mean, they are just right out in the open. The Chi-Coms are celebrating, thinking Joe Biden's the president. This is a crazy moment.
Yes, absolutely. And my number one thing is, I think Trump is playing it exactly right. Just stay in the shadows. You never interrupt the enemy while they're in the process of destroying themselves. You let them put themselves out there on the table. There's an army of citizens, journalists, just like me, you, and every listener that we have here that are doing their due diligence and going through and exposing all of this fraud and corruption. Trump doesn't even have to do anything except for keep himself insulated. And that's the most important thing.
I want to ask Dr. Cheney why he thinks Trump gave that speech at 3 a.m. On November 3rd, November 4th, and then gave one little speech that has not been seen in 4 days, 5 days. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think he should be resolute, desk, but maybe he's waiting with all the evidence and then hit him hard. I think he should address the American people and say that Joe Biden's a communist Chinese agent and that he's a fraud. That's the end of it. But we'll find out what Dr. Cheney has take on that when we come back. Let's get another call in here. We're taking a lot of calls. They've done a pretty good job getting your calls. Zach in South Carolina. Thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I'm really here to talk to the audience. I'm a normal guy from South Carolina. There's a bunch of normal people here in South Carolina, and we're all pretty pissed off by what's going on. And I'm asking people, please, if you never do again in your life, stand up right now for what you believe in. I really, really think that now is a serious time, and I think that everything that y'all tell us, this information you're giving to us, I think now it's our turn to grab this information and make a difference. We've got to get to DC this weekend.
That's why the enemy is shutting down all the communication, because they're weak. We have the truth. And that it's outrageous. All the censorship, all the tyranny, all the bullying is only on hors d'oeuvre. It's a small taste of what's coming if we let these monsters take control of our republic.
I agree. And I think people really need to recognize that and stop being afraid of what people are going to think about you whenever you decide to go to this thing in D.C., whenever you decide to go and protest against the mainstream.
I mean, the Democrats are like, anybody that voted for Trump, we have the voter rolls, we're going to persecute you. Anyone that doesn't support our overthrow of Trump will persecute. People are like, oh God, I mean, sorry, like, I'm going to kick your ass, you don't bow down, you just got to fight. That's an American instinct, a human instinct. Since when does somebody threaten us and we cower in fear? This is BS.
And you're speaking my language here in South Carolina, man. You don't smooth out here. Look, this is how we do things around here. Whenever things are wrong, we take as much as we can until it gets to a point where we realize that there may be some holes in our eyes. I think it's something I'm just asking regular people like me, time to stand up, time to grab the phone.
Well, I totally agree with you. And just like we all have a sixth sense, I can feel the enemy's anger. I felt the Patriots' anger the last few days. I'm physically sick. It's so huge. Did you not feel it?
Absolutely. I mean, I swear there's electromagnetic magnetic field going on between all humans. I think we all know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's not like we got some new group taking us over. These are people that want to break us. They want to suck us dry. They want to bankrupt us and pound our head on the wall. It's not going to happen. God bless you, Zach. Everybody's joining Owen Schroyer's caravan in Atlanta, Georgia tonight. He goes into D.C. I'll be there. I'm flying out tonight. And we got Dr. Steve Cheney coming up. We're going to go to break. And we're going to air the clip of Pompeo saying that, no, there's a big smooth transition to Trump, too. And then we're going to play the sickening, grinning clip, because this is literally voted for the Communist Party twice, is a Wahhabist, Saudi Arabian pimp. And this guy thinks he's going to defeat us. Let me tell you, I can watch body language. For the first time, that arrogant rat looks scared. He looks real scared. He should be, because there's no way they get out of this now. Any way you slice it, all roads lead to victory. The only question is how rocky they're going to be. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. Spread the word. You are Paul Revere. You are 1776. America is in crisis. Emergency lockdown 2 is coming under Biden. Support InfoWars in fighting its total economic collapse. And Biden's martial law disguised as lockdown 2. Up to 60% off, plus free shipping and triple Patriot points or more at InfoWarsStore.com. DNA Force Plus, Alpha Power Active Stock, Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula, Ultra 12, Vitamin Fusion, Kava Chill, Super Vitality, complete. They'll be elector selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, mid-afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front end. I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security function as we go forward.
Well, as Vice President Pence and the cabinet had an ounce of fortitude and spine and patriotism, I think they would seriously consider invoking the 25th Amendment and pushing Donald Trump out, because he is just very unpredictable now. He's like a cornered cat, tiger, and he's going to lash out. And the fact that, again, that he has the powers of the presidency in his hands is quite worrisome. Now, we know that the Attorney General Barr has done Donald Trump's bidding in the past. Will he continue to do that vis-a-vis this election? I don't know. But I do think it's something that members of Congress, the leadership of the Republican Party, really needs to send clear signals to Donald Trump that if he continues to go along this path, they are going to put up roadblocks.
What do you make of the Attorney General saying that his investigators before the Electoral College will look at substantial allegations of voting irregularities? As you and I both know, irregularities is not a legal standard or any kind of criminal rubric. But what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's an unprecedented move. And again, since William Barr has shown that he is willing to be Donald Trump's personal defense lawyer as opposed to the Attorney General of the United States, I am concerned that he's going to be looking at this in a very one-sided manner. And so I think this is something that hopefully the state attorney generals and others are going to stand fast. And also the Department of Justice professionals are going to carry out their duties irrespective of whatever type of political winds they feel are blowing their way.
John Brennan, thank you very much for your perspective. Appreciate it. Love to have you back when we see what happens next.
Well, if William Barr is an sycophant of Trump, which isn't true, then you're an sycophant of Communist China, the Wahhabis, the Communist Party, and any America-hating, knuckle-dragging, satanic, murderous group of scum. Man, here's the good news. I don't know the body language, and that arrogant SOB does not usually look scared. He finally, because Trump is finally executing, looks like he just crapped his diapers. Dr. Stephen Chenick is the co-author of any of Tom Clancy's books. He did help found Delta Force. He did run the Camp David Accords. He is a psychiatrist and a doctor and all the rest of that stuff. And he did do overthrows of governments, and he is who he says he is. And he's here with us. He did expose 9/11 as an inside job. He did expose Bin Laden was already dead. He did predict 2 weeks ago on the show that we would see the head of the CIA and the Secretary of Defense all fired very, very soon. I thought, well, that's lofty things. We're going to go pull the clips. Everybody heard it. You saw it. And he also brought up watermarks and all this. I haven't seen the proof of that. I'm not saying you're wrong. That got 4-point-something million views on InfoWars. But with Owen, I think you mean what you say. You might be wrong sometime. I hope that's the case. But certainly, we're seeing the tide turn with Trump winning North Carolina, Alaska. They're really starting to panic right now. I see fear in Brennan's eyes. And it seems like he's kind of the ringleader, the king of rat there. So where do you want to start, Dr. Stephen Chenick?
Let's start with the fact this is very unusual what I just heard Brennan do. I mean, it was one of the stupidest interviews he's ever done for a man who I consider to be exceedingly self-destructive. Now, although I was accused of being a shill for the CIA, I've never been in the CIA, but I can tell you the quality of people who recruited in the CIA is typified by Brennan. Irish Catholic, totally incompetent, messed up in Saudi Arabia, messed up with George Bush, who brought him on board, then became the director of the CIA under Obama, the Manchurian candidate under Obama. But what makes this fascinating is John Brennan just accused another operative of being incompetent. And who am I talking about? Barr. I've said it on this show before, and I'm going to say it again. Barr is the Attorney General. He has never had a lot of prosecutorial experience, but he started as a DI. I said this on the show 2 years ago. That's an analyst at the CIA. Then he became a DDO.
Sure, that's all on record. So what's the big picture? What's the big picture?
The big picture here is that you have an internal fight going on within the CIA between the military and the civilian intelligence unit between the Democrats and the Republicans. This is a full-fledged revolution. This is what I said months ago. I said Gina Haspel will leave. She was fired. I told you Esper would be fired. He was fired. Christopher Wray will be fired. Fauci will be fired. So what's happening now, contrary to what everybody believes, Trump is very much in control. This is what I said before. This is Sun Tzu. He's watching the game, manipulating it, and you don't see it. I told you we set it up. Whether you believe in the watermarks or not, that's not relevant. What you should understand, and what I said, is that the cryptocurrencies, or the coding that was done, is not just done by the CIA or any of those organizations. It's done at a much higher level, where you have people in the cyber command, cyber communication. There's a reason why I wrote 30, 40 years ago, before even Clancy was around, a series of books called Net Force, Cyber Command and Cyber War. I could predict that there would be a future where cyber command, and the fact that we would be monitored all day and every day, which is what we are. The NSA monitors us. This is what was said by Bannon and the general before. They monitor us, and then they can switch whatever votes are needed, either in Florida or anywhere else. Trump understood this, so did a lot of people in the intelligence community and elsewhere, and they wanted to be proactive. What you're seeing now, whether you believe it or not, is very clear. You see Sun Tzu in action. You see the mastermind, Trump, a president, who basically is very quiet, went to the National Cemetery, did what he had to do on Veterans Day, was very presidential.
That's my next question. Why is Trump normally everywhere 10 times a day? Why is Trump normally running around like the sun in the 990 everywhere you see him? Why has he not been seen hardly?
Why is he what?
Why is Trump not being seen?
Because this is a very clever move. What you do not want is to understand that he is in this game manipulating it actively. In fact, what he is doing is compelling you and others to say, where is he? What's happening? And in fact, the brilliance of his maneuver, and this is what he's done in the past, is to initiate the strategy. He's done that with all his casinos. Walk away, let you make all the necessary comments, self-destruct, and more importantly, project your own fears and concerns. Then he monitors that and then puts it within the system. The more fearful you become, the more you ask him to come to the front right now, the more he pulls back. It's a brilliant art of war. I didn't determine it. Trump knew this way before I ever met him. He knew
Let me ask you
this in
this.
New York 30 years ago. He knew it in New Jersey when he built the
I know you agree with me, Dr. Cheney. Why does Brennan look so scared? I mean, he's calling for
Brennan
killing
is
the president.
scared because Brennan will be indicted for various criminal activities. Unfortunately, he is or was in the CIA, but he knows he's making a fool of himself. He knows that he's on a self-destructive path. He may not be confident, but he's not stupid. He knows exactly what's been happening. And he's been urged by the Democrats who gave him the access that he needed, although Bush Jr. gave it to him as well. Those days are gone. Trump is not in the business of kowtowing to the ex-CIA operatives or ex-military operatives. If anything, he's very pro-military, and those of us in the back, not including me, I have nothing to do with any of the affiliations. Believe it or not, you can read it in American Warrior in Crisis, the book I wrote. I don't belong to any of the organizations. That's why I go on your show, Alex, because you don't belong to anybody.
Let's talk about this when we come back. Let's talk about the election fraud. Where do you think it's going? What do you think is going to unfold next? And what the Democrats are going to do? And they're repudiating, saying Joe Biden is president-elect. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Election 2020 is here. And whether Trump wins or loses, he won't win by exposing the communist Chinese, by exposing the globalists, by exposing the pedophile rings, by exposing the fact this is really a fight between good versus evil. Now, I'm personally a Christian. I believe in God. I know God's real and I've experienced it in my life. But even if you don't believe in God, it's important to recognize that there is good in this world, there is evil. And there are people out there that want to do you harm because they enjoy doing bad. And what I see
He got rid
Instead,
of
they
the
froze the
entire.
election in control in Democrat-controlled states. And then discounted the Trump votes and put the fraudulent in with graphs that were organic, but then went straight up. Everybody could see it. Experts have come out and said it's a fraud. The Washington Post is panicking, saying that whistleblowers are frauds. The whistleblowers come out and say it's not true. We didn't say that. They are so desperate, Dr. Cheney. Well, let me ask you these questions because you're an author, a researcher. You know, you've seen a lot of angles, State Department, all these different groups. From talking to your sources, your own research, what would you call this period in American history? It's not just a civil war. It's an outside power trying to control the country. And what do you expect to happen? I mean, is Trump going to win? I mean, obviously he's winning in reality. Tell people your weather forecast.
It's what I said years ago on your show. We did a sting operation on Hillary Clinton. She didn't succeed. We are allowing Biden to be president for 40 or 60 days, and it's over. December 14th, it will be over. The Electoral College will declare that Trump won. Trump will come back in. And this is a period of turbulence that would be
Is that
expected
why
in the
DeSantis is
Republic.
admitting he's getting rid of the Biden police to shoot voters?
Well, I'm not in the business at the local level to do what we did, but I did tell you we did send out National Guards and other paramilitary units to make sure that we didn't have massive riots and we wouldn't have a civil war. This is not a civil war. We're not going down as Abraham Lincoln did and slaughtered innocent Southern citizens for the Mississippi, Missouri, and New Orleans. What we're doing here is a proactive move that Trump explained years ago when he said, vote, #cheap voters. He meant that he knew very well that our elections have been nothing more than a series of corrupt practices. With the Bushes, both Clintons, with Obama twice, and now with Biden.
No, I agree. So what comes next and how do they respond? How do you see this unfolding?
What comes next is that Trump will declare that he is the president. Biden will withdraw because Biden will either have to be faced with prosecutorial indictments, serious ones, as well as those against his son. It was not an accident. We have brought up his son and under Biden, as well as his two brothers. So the more Biden comes out, which is exactly what Trump wants him to do, the more he's basically self-destructive. It's like John
I was about
Brennan.
to say, though, I've never seen anyone in history that's compromised. He is caught. This isn't like fables about Russia. They have the audio of them saying, me and my dad work for Chinese intelligence. I mean, this is like royal flush stuff.
So you explain it to me. How is a man who is so stupid, so incompetent, who has literally been in a position 47 years where he's done nothing except, as I said before, go to war in Iraq, Serbia, Syria, blah, blah, blah. He did nothing. Totally corrupt. Brothers are corrupt. Sons are corrupt. And he has the gall to say, I'm in charge now. I mean, it is beyond absurdity. So you can call this the theater of the absurd, but in reality, the man who's writing it, directing it, and producing it is Donald Trump, a genius. Trust me. This is not just now that I've seen it. I've seen him work for 30 to 40 years in New York, New Jersey, and all over the world. This is exactly how a genius works. He sets it up, he puts in the scam, he lets the people self-destruct. Notice Hillary Clinton hasn't said a word. She knew she was on notice, but Biden didn't get the message, and he's right out there with Kamala Harris, whoever she is, what nonsense she portrays as an African-American woman. Her father was a professor emeritus at Stanford. We knew him. He was famous in economics. Came out of
He's a orator on the street, so let's talk about this. Forget Dr. Steve Pincini, forget Alex Jones, forget Donald Trump, forget Hillary Clinton, forget Joe Biden. They're saying he's president-elect when it's the state attorney generals and it's the legislatures that certify the vote. That hasn't happened unless someone capitulates and concedes. And so when CNN says, oh no, he's president-elect, I can put up on screen as a media institution saying Alex Jones is president-elect. It's not true. So the fact that they're trying to gaslight us like this, what does this do to the mainstream media when this fails?
You hit it on the head, Alex. But the reason I always chose you imminent death in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. What you have here is basically the collapse of any notion of a centralized media or media coming out of Washington, D.C. If you don't go to Project Veritas, you don't go to Alex Jones, you don't go to the social media lines where we know they're alternative media, you're not going to get the truth. And this is really what you see is the implosion of a system that never thought it would die. Fox News, ABC, MSNBC, all of them gone. Anderson Cooper twice was an intern at the CIA. You're telling me this is a naive, well-intentioned liberal? No way. He knew exactly what was going on. You have all of Jake Tapper wrote an incredible story about the outpost in Afghanistan military. He didn't know what was going on? Of course he knew what was going on. So this goes on and on and on. What you're seeing is a massive change in the media, in the schools. Now we're seeing what schools we need and what we don't need, universities. But for me,
By the way, I agree with you. As you said a few years ago, this in-school learning is about to be discredited. I don't like the big tech takeover. At the same time, the very teacher unions are buying into this at-home learning and destroying themselves. They're all destroying themselves. How were they tricked into this?
because when you're greedy, and there are two elements, and you're hitting it on the head, Alex. Fear and self-aggrandizement and the notion that you don't have to take a risk are the two elements we don't foster in an entrepreneurial world, but we do foster with a pension. I can control any CIA operative or any military or any school teacher by simply saying the following: you don't want to do what? And then I'll handle your pension. I can handle the pension, handle their salary. So what happens in America, the people you see who are compromised, the school teachers, it's unfortunate their unions got them into bankruptcy. Moral
They're in a cult. They might be good people, but they're in a communist cult.
That's correct. I mean, here in Florida, they signed away think of this, they signed away all of their rights in 1968. How do you sign away your rights in 1968 when you're a teacher and you're supposed to be giving information to others? That's how stupid and that's how fearful we have a society. Every time you see somebody wearing a mask, that's
I was about to say, let's get into COVID, because this morning you laid it on me. You haven't really said this, but just say, manufactured virus, fear weapon, Chicom Global still laid out.
correct.
We gotta go right. Let's go on and down to Steve Machinning. SteveMachinning.com. We're gonna lay this down. I just looked at the clock, and that wasn't a cliffhanger on purpose. I looked at the clock, 20 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is epic stuff going down right now, and this is the battle for the Republic. And now you've got North Carolina, and you've got Alaska won by Trump, and the media's not even covering it. This is so historical. This is edge of your seat stuff. And I'm just so glad and so blessed you kept us here on air. We got loaded phones too. Jay Dyer's coming up, and Edward Machinning leaves us. I will take all these calls from Dennis, Kurt, Kathy, and many others. Stay with us. Infowars.com. Tomorrow's news today. Remember Hillary Clinton, remember Pelosi, remember Bill Clinton, remember Obama, all of them said, we are not going to concede if there's a red mirage. We believe it's going to look like Trump's going to win a landslide because they have the internal polls. And indeed, Trump won most of the states he won last time by an even bigger margin. And he was set to win the other ones. They froze these 7 states on election night. And then they brought in all the reserve ballots they had. This is completely transparent. So when they say that he is president-elect, he's not. Trump has not conceded. None of the states have certified the vote. And all these investigations have been opened up. And avalanche has been documented. And in Georgia, officials are on record saying they've already found fraud. So ladies and gentlemen, the fix is in. They've run bigger and bigger hoaxes every time because the last hoax failed. But now this is the mother of all hoaxes. And if they get away with this, it's the end of America as we know it. We will be Venezuela. Infowars.com. There are many references in the Holy Bible to the mustard seed. And why is that? It's one of the tiniest seeds out there, but a giant tree-like bush grows from it and produces more mustard seeds. Mustard was known by the ancients around the world to have amazing health effects. They didn't know why. The modern science in stock, 50% off, triple pay 3 points, and InfoWarsStore.com, and with free shipping. Introducing InfoWars Life Pure Turmeric Extract. This is taken under the tongue. It is pure turmeric. It goes together very well with our body's ultimate turmeric formula that is taken as a powdered capsule and absorbed in the stomach and intestines. This is absorbed under the tongue into the bloodstream, and then the remaining also is then absorbed by the stomach. So it's more of an intense delivery system. The two formulas are different, but both are concentrates, and our first product got rave reviews. We've now been testing this out for several months. Some of our staff like it more than bodies, some like bodies better. For me, they're both amazing for their anti-inflammatory action and so much more, and they fund the InfoWar. So get our new liquid turmeric extract exclusively at InfoWarsStore.com today, an additional 25% off. This is a 360 win. Turmeric is renowned for what it does for all of our bodies, for inflammation and so much more. Get yours today at InfoWarsLife.com.
I'm not trying to be an
You're listening to the Alex Jones Show.
They're coming out new research. They're coming out all the time. They're doing more research studies, not just people that make turmeric, but the intensive inflammation.